Imagine a phenomenon so powerful that it distorts geography. In the realm of professional sports, the concept of home court advantage is usually fixed by coordinates on a map. If you play in New York, the Americans have the edge. If you play in Paris, the French crowd dictates the emotional weather. But what happens when a player carries their homeland with them, not in their passport, but in the voices of a massive, mobilized diaspora? What happens when a tennis stadium thousands of miles from Manila suddenly transforms into a cauldron of Southeast Asian fervor? Welcome to the Foro Italico in Rome. It is May 2026, and the Italian Open is witnessing an unprecedented atmospheric shift. The red clay of Rome is hallowed ground, typically defined by Italian passion, espresso-fueled debates in the stands, and a polite, aristocratic appreciation for the sport. But right now, a different kind of energy is vibrating through the stadium architecture. It is an energy that threatens to completely neutralize the clinical, ice-cold dominance of the world number 2, Kazakhstan's ELENA Rybakina. The catalyst for this hysteria? A 20-year-old rising star named Alexandra EALA. We are not just talking about a tennis match today. We are talking about an impending psychological siege. The headline dominating the sports world, Alexandra EALA causes hysteria in Rome, with projected 170,000 Filipinos across Italy ready to make their presence felt against ELENA Rybakina, is not hyperbole. It is a demographic reality preparing to crash head-on into the elite hierarchy of the Women's Tennis Association. But why does this specific matchup carry the weight of a geopolitical event? Why is ELENA Rybakina, a two-time Grand Slam champion who has stared down the most intimidating environments on earth, stepping into a trap that she cannot prepare for on the practice court? This is the central mystery we are going to unravel. We will explore how a uniquely mobilized immigrant workforce is rewriting the rules of crowd psychology, and why a 20-year-old from the Philippines might just possess the one invisible weapon capable of breaking the concentration of a reigning Grand Slam winner. To understand the stakes of this encounter, we have to recognize that this changes everything, not just for players involved, but for the global audience watching. For decades, the narrative of Philippine sports has been overwhelmingly dominated by basketball and boxing. Tennis was viewed as a peripheral, elite country club pursuit. But Alex EALA is single-handedly democratizing the sport for over 115 million people back home, and millions more scattered across the globe. When she steps onto clay in Rome, she is not just playing for WTA ranking points or share the prize money. She is carrying the desperate, hopeful validation of an entire nation. For the viewer, this match represents a fascinating collision of two opposing forces. On one side, you have the ultimate product of technical perfection. ELENA Rybakina is a machine. Her serve is a devastating weapon of geometry and power. Her demeanor is famously impenetrable. She does not smile when she wins. She does not panic when she loses. She operates in a state of absolute emotional baseline. On the other side, you have Alex EALA, a player forged in the Rafael Nadal Academy, who plays with heavy topspin, grueling physical endurance, and an emotional intensity that is about to be amplified by a stadium filled with her compatriots. If Rybakina is the immovable object, the Filipino diaspora in Italy is the unstoppable force. As we dive deeper into the story, we will uncover the origins of this diaspora, the hidden technical vulnerabilities in Rybakina's armor when faced with a hostile rhythm, and the profound psychological burden EALA must navigate to avoid being crushed by the very expectations that are lifting her up. The outcome of this match will echo far beyond the clay courts of Rome. It will send a message to the entire tennis establishment about the shifting power dynamics of global sports fandom. To truly grasp the magnitude of what is happening in Rome, we must first trace the origins of the situation. How did we get here? How did a 20-year-old Filipina become the focal point of a European clay court season? The backstory of Alexandra EALA is a masterclass in strategic, long-term athletic development. Unlike many prodigies who burn out under the spotlight, EALA's ascent has been meticulously calculated. At the age of 14, she relocated to Mallorca, Spain, to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy. This was not merely a change of scenery. It was a fundamental rewiring of her tennis DNA. Under the guidance of elite coaches, she absorbed the Spanish philosophy of clay court tennis. Heavy topspin, relentless footwork, and a tactical patience that turns matches into wars of attrition. The results spoke for themselves. She became the first Filipina to win a junior Grand Slam singles title at the U.S. Open. But transitioning from a junior champion to a dominant force on the professional tour is the hardest leap in sports. Many falter. EALA, however, methodically climbed the ranks. She secured milestone victories, notably shocking former world number 2 IGA Swiatek at the Miami Open, proving that she possessed the raw firepower to compete with the elite. Now, sitting firmly in the top 30 of the world rankings, she is no longer a prospect. She is a contender. But the why factor of the specific match goes far beyond EALA's forehand mechanics. To understand the hysteria, we have analyzed the hidden motives of the most important player in this match, the crowd. Let us initiate a micro deep dive into the demographics of Italy. According to recent data, there are roughly 165,000 to 170,000 Filipinos residing in Italy. They represent one of the oldest and largest non-European Union immigrant communities in the country, with roots dating back to the 1970s. They are heavily concentrated in regions like Lombardy and Lazio, the very region where Rome and the Foro Italico are located. This is not a casual fan base. The Overseas Filipino Worker, or OFW, is a cornerstone of the Philippine national identity. These are individuals who have left their families, their homes, and their comfort zones to build lives and send remittances from foreign soil. When an athlete like Alex Eala comes to their adopted city, she ceases to be just a tennis player. She becomes a living, breathing representation of home. She is a symbol of Filipino excellence operating on a global stage, commanding the respect of the Western world. When those thousands of fans buy tickets to the Italian Open, they are not coming for polite applause. They are bringing a festive, desperate, roaring energy that is entirely foreign to the traditional etiquette of a WTA match. This brings us to the psychological and technical nuances of the matchup. Tennis is an intimately psychological sport. Unlike basketball or soccer, where crowd noise is a constant white noise, tennis demands silence during the point. The tension builds in the quiet before the serve. ELENA Rybakina's entire game is built on rhythm. She relies on her towering height and biomechanical efficiency to deliver a flat, penetrating first serve that dictates the terms of engagement. She likes to keep points short. She wants to hit a massive serve, step into court, and hit a clean winner. But what happens when the silence before her serve is broken by the murmurs, the chants, and the sheer anticipatory buzz of a hostile crowd? Historically, we have seen great champions unravel when the crowd turns a tennis match into a football match. We saw it with Martina Hingis against Steffi Graf at Roland Garros. We have seen it during Davis Cup ties, where the away team simply cannot find their service rhythm because the psychological pressure of the crowd creates microscopic tension in their shoulders and wrists. Rybakina will be fighting on two fronts. She has to solve Eala's heavy, kicking topspin that will jump high off the Roman clay, forcing Rybakina to hit the ball outside her ideal strike zone. And simultaneously, she has to fight the sensory overload of the stadium that will erupt for her double faults and roar for every single winner Eala hits. Eala's strategy will be to extend the rallies, to drag Rybakina into the deep waters of physical and emotional exhaustion, and let the crowd serve as her tailwind. However, as an investigative analysis, we must present the counter-arguments. We must play devil's advocate to build a complete picture. Is the hype surrounding Alex Eala outpacing her current reality? There's a profound danger in the savior complex that often plagues Philippine sports. When a nation is so starved for global individual dominance outside of boxing, the media and the fans tend to place a crushing weight on the shoulders of the next big thing. Eala is only 20 years old. While her ranking has surged, there's an invisible yet massive chasm between being ranked 29th in the world and being ranked second. ELENA Rybakina is world number 2 for a reason. You do not win Wimbledon and the Australian Open by being mentally fragile. Rybakina's emotional flatline is often misconstrued as a lack of passion, but it is actually her superpower. It is an emotional force field. If the crowd gets loud, Rybakina might not crumble. She might simply tune it out with ruthless efficiency. Her flat ground strokes can cut through the slow clay, robbing Eala the time she needs to set up her heavy topspin. If Rybakina lands 70% of her first serves, no amount of crowd noise will change the geometry of the court. The ball will simply fly past EALA before the crowd even has time to cheer. Furthermore, there's the risk of the crowd backfiring on EALA. The pressure to perform in front of your people, when they have traveled across the country, taken days off work, and draped the stadium in the national flag, can make the racket feel like it weighs 100 pounds. If EALA falls behind early, the desperate silence of a disappointed crowd can be far more deafening than their cheers. Yet, even acknowledging these counter-arguments, the microdynamics of this match lean toward chaos. The Italian Open is the final major tune-up before the French Open. Rybakina is looking to fine-tune her game, not engage in a grueling, emotionally draining street fight. If EALA can stay in the match for the first 5 games, if she can force Rybakina to play long, grueling deuce games on her serve, the cumulative pressure of the environment will begin to warp the match. Every unforced error from Rybakina will be met with a crescendo of noise. This is a hidden variable that algorithms and statistics cannot quantify. As we look beyond the immediate spectacle of this match in Rome, we must ask a critical question. What is a long-term trajectory? What happens 5 years from now because of the hysteria we are witnessing today? Fast forward to the year 2031. If Alexandra EALA solidifies her presence not just in the top 30, but in the top 10 or top 5 of the world, the entire infrastructure of Philippine sports will undergo a seismic paradigm shift. For decades, corporate sponsorships, government funding, and grassroots development in the Philippines have been funneled almost exclusively into basketball. But basketball, for all its cultural dominance, presents physical limitations for the average Filipino on the global stage. Tennis, however, is a sport of technique, endurance, and mental fortitude, traits that align perfectly with the athletic profile of a nation. EALA's success is already beginning to prove that a Filipino athlete, given the right training environment and resources, can conquer a globally recognized, premier individual sport. In 5 years, the EALA effect will result in a surge of public tennis courts being built across the archipelago. We will see academies popping up, drawing talent away from the basketball courts and onto the hard courts in clay. More importantly, the global perception of the Filipino athlete will evolve. The hysteria in Rome is teaching the world that the Filipino diaspora is a sleeping giant of sports consumerism. When brands and sports organizations realize that an athlete like EALA can mobilize hundreds of thousands of expatriates across Europe, the Middle East, and North America, the financial valuation of Southeast Asian tennis players will skyrocket. The WTA will recognize Manila as a highly lucrative market, potentially bringing a major tour event to the Philippines. The groundwork for that future is being laid right now on the red dirt of the Foro Italico. As we reach our final thought, I want you to consider what this match truly represents. At its core, professional sports are a mechanism for storytelling. We watch because we want to see human beings overcome obstacles. But for the 170,000 Filipinos in Italy, this match is not just a story. It is a mirror. Many of these individuals left their homeland out of necessity, seeking better opportunities in a foreign land. They navigate the complexities of integration, the loneliness of distance, and the daily grind of providing for their families thousands of miles away. When Alex EALA steps onto that court, she represents the ultimate realization of the immigrant dream. To step onto foreign soil, face the absolute best the world has to offer, and refuse to back down. For a few hours in Rome, the concept of home is completely detached from geography. Home is not a set of islands in the Pacific. Home is a feeling. It is a collective roar crowd wrapping its arms around a 20-year-old girl, protecting her, empowering her, and telling the reigning Grand Slam champion across the net that she is not just playing one woman. She is playing an entire nation. That is a weight no amount of practice can prepare you for. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. The cultural and athletic collisions happening in sports right now are moving faster than ever, and we are committed to unpacking the layers beneath the headlines. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our long-form investigations. I want to hear your perspective on this. Do you think the psychological pressure of a mobilized crowd can truly break a top-tier champion like Rybakina, or will her clinical precision silence the stadium? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation. Until next time, keep looking beyond the scoreboard. What aspects of player psychology or crowd dynamics would you like us to investigate in our next sports documentary?